Up on a Tuesday. Thanks for joining us as always. It is much appreciated. You can check us out on Spotify, Apple Pods, and YouTube. All right. Is Coach Bill Belichick coaching scared? Going to get to that. Going to get to Rhamondre Stevenson and whether or not we should be concerned about the running back. And I guess we have to talk about Mac and this whole cupgate with Sauce Gardner. But before we get into that, just a quick note this morning from the Patriots reporters out there covering the beat. They all do some great work. Mike Reese posted today on X that Aquale looks like he might be dealing with a torn bicep. Not great. So it looks like the Patriots are going to lose one of their defensive tackles for the rest of the season. Aquale has done a really good job with these sub-pass rush packages. He gets to the quarterback pretty well. And, of course, his team already isn't the most deep at defensive tackle. Lawrence Guy has not been playing a ton of snaps. He played much more last week because of Aquale's injury and Godchau's injury. So Aquale looks like he's going to be done. If Godchau is out for any length of time, things can get pretty serious at the defensive tackle spot for the Patriots. They just don't have a lot of guys. Christian Barmore played well last week. Will they go out and sign Carl Davis? He is on the Seattle Seahawks practice squad. I would imagine that is absolutely an option for Belichick, but we have to keep an eye on defensive tackle. That interior defensive line could be a problem as we move along. All right, let's get into Bill Belichick and also a little bit of Bill O'Brien, because I thought on Sunday, and we gave you the positives yesterday, right? But I thought on Sunday, Belichick and O'Brien coached not to lose. And there's a difference, coaching not to lose versus coaching to win, going after it. And I thought that both of those guys showed multiple examples of coaching not to lose instead of let's go get a win. And I know there's some reasonable pushback on this. Some of the discussion that we're going to have today is about fourth quarter decisions and fourth down decisions by Belichick. And I understand that Patriots fans, many of you will say, Nick, they were playing against Zach Wilson and the Jets. Punt the football, force them to drive multiple times on your defense, force them to beat you. It was the right move. It's debatable. It's 100% debatable. That is a fine pushback. It is a reasonable pushback to say it was Zach Wilson, it was the Jets. Punting and playing conservative was the right way to go. But here's my pushback. This is what the Patriots do. This is what Bill Belichick does. Bill Belichick doesn't just coach not to lose against the Jets. He coaches not to lose against the NFL. That is what he's done for several years. Now, Philadelphia, week one was a bit of an anomaly because, of course, Belichick went for it on fourth down several times. I agreed on the 4th and 8 decision. I did not love the rest of the decisions made on that day. That's the anomaly, though. If you think Bill Belichick is an aggressive coach, you just haven't been paying attention the last 10 plus years. This isn't just against the Jets. It's not just against teams that have issues moving the football and scoring. Belichick's conservative approach has been a thing since like 2012. Pat's Pulpit in February of this year wrote an analysis by Football Outsiders compared the NFL's head coaches based on their aggressiveness on fourth down. The idea behind the aggressiveness index is measuring which coaches are more willing to go for it under a select set of game-specific circumstances. This is Bernd Muckmasser at Pat's Pulpit. In order to find Belichick on this aggressiveness index by the Football Outsiders, you would have to scroll all the way down to the 31st spot. So according to Football Outsiders, Bill Belichick, and this was written this year, Bill Belichick, according to Football Outsiders, is the second most conservative / least aggressive head coach in football. The second least aggressive. Belichick decided to go for it on just 6 of 109 qualifying situations. So you had 109 qualifying situations, fourth down. Belichick went for it 6 times out of those 109. The only coach that was more conservative than Bill Belichick last year was Robert Saleh, the guy you just saw coach the Jets. The only coach that was less aggressive than Belichick was the head coach that had Zach Wilson as his quarterback last season. Think about that. Absorb it. Aaron Schatz, formerly of Football Outsiders, he wrote this about Belichick. Belichick was one of the most aggressive coaches in the league year after year, back when the league as a whole was much less aggressive. He inexplicably became much less aggressive on fourth downs around 2012. So put that in perspective. Belichick was more aggressive than really any other coach in football for a long time. Then all of a sudden in 2012, he started to become one of the least aggressive coaches in football with Tom Brady. He had Tom Brady as his quarterback. He had the GOAT as his quarterback, and he was still one of the least aggressive head coaches in football when it came to fourth down and going for it. So it's not, oh, Brady leaving, right? Which Schatz writes about. Strange timing, because it doesn't fit the two most common explanations for why Belichick became less aggressive. It wasn't timed to the failed 4th and 2, of course, against the Colts, and it wasn't timed to the departure of Tom Brady. Something happened at the beginning of 2012 that made Belichick much, much, much less aggressive than he had ever been throughout his coaching career. And so you fast forward to Sunday. And my point that the Patriots coaching staff, led by Belichick, they coached not to lose that game on Sunday. Fourth down against the Jets. Let's just look at 3 examples. And this is not to knock any individual decision made by the coach. It's about the general tone. It's about the general approach. It's about Belichick being less aggressive than everybody else except one head coach last year, one of the most conservative head coaches in football since 2012, again, following a pattern. Here's what happened on Sunday, first quarter, 4th and 3 at the Jets 29. They kick a field goal. Again, you can push back. Plenty of time, right? You can say, hey, look, Nick, you just want to get points on the board. You want to get a lead. You're playing Zach Wilson. We're going to hear that over and over and over again on the pushback. The people that disagree with me on this. But 4th and 3 at the Jets 29. You have an opportunity to get 3 yards. You're moving the ball. You have an opportunity to get 3 yards, move the chains, and set yourself up to maybe score a touchdown, considering you are one of the best red zone offenses in football so far. But you kick a field goal, 4th and 3 at the Jets 29. Again in the first quarter, 4th and 3 at the Jets 45. You punt the football. You have plenty of time. If you're not afraid of Zach Wilson, you have 3+ quarters to make this up. If you're not afraid of Zach Wilson, are you afraid of him driving from his own 45 to score? Are you afraid of him driving from his own 29 to score? Field goal, and then a punt. Those 2 situations. Then here's another one. There's 10:52 left in the game on Sunday. 4th and inches. This is when Mac tried the whole QB sneak, tush-push kind of thing, right? And then there was the kerfuffle afterwards and possibly the cup check, which we'll talk about later on here in the pod today. On that play, right? Mac tries to get that first down. He's about a half a yard short, quarter yard short. There's 10:52 left in the game. Your defense has shut down Zach Wilson and the Jets offense. Now, there's 2 things you can possibly think here if you're Belichick. One, you can say to yourself, well, Zach Wilson hasn't moved the ball all day long. We're up by 10 points. Let's punt the football and let's force him to drive down the field and score a touchdown and make this thing close, which is what he did, by the way. But that's one trail of thought. That's one path you could take. And again, reasonable. You can argue that. You can debate it. Here's the other path you can take if you're Belichick. It's 4th and inches. There's 10:52 left. You're on the opponent's 45, so you're on the plus 45-yard line. Your defense has played great all day long. Zach Wilson has not been able to move the ball against your defense, whether it's a 55-yard drive, 65, 75, 80, 95, whatever. He hasn't moved the football. You're up by 10. If you convert this 4th into a first and you get that half yard that you need from the Jets 45, you continue to soak clock. you continue to move the football and you give yourself a chance to score more points, which really puts this game away. Ipso facto, Belichick with 10:52 left in the fourth quarter at the plus 45 had an opportunity to get a half a yard, get a first down, and make a statement and put his foot on the Jets' throat on Sunday. Instead, he punted the football. Wilson drives down. Jets get a touchdown, and all of a sudden, this is a 3-point game with time left. No killer instinct. The lack of aggressiveness. That has been a benchmark for Bill Belichick here over the last 11 years. That has been what he does. And I'm growing tired of it. I would make the argument. People would say, Nick, they played it safe because they had Zach Wilson. That was the right thing to do. I would argue the opposite. I would say that because you played it so safe, because you had decisions that you made earlier in the game, when you decided to kick a field goal from the Jets 29 on 4th and 3, when you decided to punt from the Jets 45, when you had a 4th and 3, when you decided to punt again from the Jets 45, and you had a 4th and less than 1. Because you decided to play it safe and conservative, you allowed the door to remain open. You gave the Jets a chance to win that game. They had no right to be as close as they were in that game on Sunday, but they were close. Why? Because the head coach played it safe, because the head coach lacked a killer instinct. He did not want to put his foot on the throat of the New York Jets. And if Randall Cobb catches that ball on the Hail Mary, this is an entirely different conversation, entirely different feel around this football team right now. So I would push back and I would say that Belichick's safe play, safe coaching, his conservative approach was the reason why the Jets were in that game. They should have not been in that game to begin with. And when you go so conservative, when you coach the way Belichick's coached since 2012, it puts the onus on everybody else. The quarterback has to be really good, nearly flawless, because he has to make the most of every single drive, because you're not going to try to extend drives when you have opportunities to do so. So the quarterback in the offense has to make the most of almost every drive in every game. The defense has to be nearly flawless. Look at Sunday. You can't play better defense than the Patriots played on Sunday, and still it was a 3-point game with time left on the clock. You're asking too much of everybody because you're coaching it too conservatively. And this has been the case since 2012. This is not a Jets thing. It is a Belichick thing. It is not a Zach Wilson thing. It is a Belichick philosophy. And we wonder why the Patriots have not won close games over the past few years. And we wonder why when the opposition scores 24 points or more, the Patriots have lost, the last 12 or 13 games, whatever the hell the statistic is. You wonder why? Because your head coach doesn't go for it. He's not aggressive enough. He's not trying to score 30 points. He's trying to score 20. That's the issue. And it bleeds into the play calling. Bill O'Brien with shotgun runs, second down, short and medium runs. Now, some of these could be RPOs when you look at the film, but how many times this year have we seen already through 3 weeks Bill O'Brien with a second and short or a second and medium, and he runs the football in the middle of the defensive line and gets nothing out of it, and you're looking at a 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. Lack of aggressiveness. This offense has had an opportunity to get creative and take shots, and they haven't done it enough. And I'm not talking about those one-on-one 50-50 balls downfield, because Mac needs to be better with that, and this offense needs to be better, and some of those plays are absolutely useless. They're a waste. I'm talking about situations like when you have a 1st and 10, right? Second drive on Sunday, Patriots up 3-0. 1st and 10 at the Patriots 36. Elliott runs for 12 yards. 1st and 10 at the New England 48. Mac throws it to Kendrick Bourne for 8 yards. Right now is the perfect chance for you to take a shot, for you to get creative, for you to do something funky that throws the defense off for a chunk play. Something, anything. First down run, Zeke gets 12. First down throw, Mac picks up 8 yards to Bourne. You're looking at a 2nd and 2 at the Jets' 44. This is the perfect spot to try to put your foot on the throat of the Jets in the first quarter. 2nd and 2 from the Jets' 44. You just had 2+ plays, 1 for 12, 1 for 8. What do? Shotgun run for -1 yard. Shotgun run for -1 yard on 2nd and 2 from the Jets' 44. 2 very positive plays leading up to that play call. 3rd and 3 at the Jets' 45. Rhamondre Stevenson has his drop that we all remember, and then you punt from the 45-yard line. There is not a better example of the lack of aggression from this coaching staff than that drive and that situation on Sunday. 1st and 10 at your 36, you pick up 12. 1st and 10 at your 48, you pick up 8. 2nd and 2 at the +44. Shotgun run, -1 yard. 3rd and 3, Stevenson drops the football, and instead of going for it on 4th and 3, from the Jets' 45, you punt the ball. And this goes into Belichick's personnel philosophy, doesn't it? It's not just the fact that he is the least aggressive, other than Robert Saleh last year, the least aggressive head coach when it comes to going for it on 4th down. It goes hand in hand with the personnel decisions that he has made. He might not be going for it on 4th down as much as other teams because he doesn't trust the weapons that he has, or maybe he doesn't trust the quarterback. And maybe the quarterback isn't the most trustworthy guy in the world because he doesn't have the weapons to throw to that other teams have to throw to when it comes to 3rd down and 4th down. Look across the AFC, folks. But who shops for the groceries? Belichick shops for the groceries. Whose fault is it that they don't have the explosive personnel to go for it more on 3rd and 4th down? And by the way, again, this goes back to 2012 when they did have some of those weapons. And Belichick still was way too conservative. Look how Bill Belichick has built this team with Mac Jones's rookie contract. It has been abysmal. Look around and see what other teams have done with young quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Tua Tagovailoa. Go across the league, Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. You have that rookie contract at the quarterback position. You're supposed to be super aggressive offensively with your personnel moves. Go out and get a legitimate number 1 receiver. Go out and do everything you can do to help your quarterback. And Belichick, conservative head coaching decisions, conservative GM decisions. Wouldn't reach for DeAndre Hopkins for a couple of $1 million this offseason to bring in a guy who could help you on 3rd and 4th down. One thing bleeds into another, bleeds into another, bleeds into another. No legit number 1 wide receiver. You spent a ton of money on the tight end position. They can be better. This team can be better. This offense can be better. But the margin for error is so slight without a top 10 offense in 2023. And the lack of aggression from the head coach, the lack of aggressive play calls at certain times when it should be wide open to make an aggressive play call, it is hurting this team. The 0 for 12, the 0 and 12 when you score less than 24, the opponent score more than 24. Again, that stat that keeps getting thrown around all over the place. 0 and 13 now, whatever it is. Is that a quarterback problem? Is that an offense problem? Or is that a philosophy issue? Is that a philosophical problem from the top? Like, rate, review, and subscribe. Don't forget, we're on Apple Pods. We're on Spotify. We are also on YouTube. Don't forget to give us those comments. We're over 300 subscribers now on YouTube, which is an awesome number early on. I appreciate every single one of you who listen and watch this show. Love every single one of you. Appreciate every single one of you. Let's keep it moving here. Let's talk about Rhamondre Stevenson. Ramandre this year has 134 rushing yards. He's averaging less than 3 per carry. That's not good. He's got 1 touchdown. If you're into super duper uber analytics, Rhamondre Stevenson has a minus 42 when it comes to rushing yards over expected. So Stevenson has actually run for 42 less yards than he should have, according to the analytics. That's the 4th worst mark in the NFL this year. So are we concerned? Are you concerned? I'm not panicked. But should we be concerned about Ramandre? I'm not there yet. It's 3 weeks. It's a long season. But he has to get going. He just has to get going. We all know that. Before the season kicked off, all offseason long, what did we say? And again, this kind of goes back to Belichick's philosophy, right? Who was considered the best offensive player on this team before we kicked off this year? Who was considered the number 1 guy on this offense? The one guy that you could look on the roster on that side of the ball and say to yourself, oh, he's a top 10 guy at that position. Stevenson, the running back. Think about it, right? We just talked about the philosophy. The running back was your best offensive player before you kicked off the ball this year. At least we thought. And he has not been the same guy. He needs to be much better. What am I seeing? First of all, I'm seeing some hesitancy from him. I'm seeing some tap dancing behind the line of scrimmage. And I said this after week 1 with Greg Bedard on the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast. You can check it out if you'd like. But right away, I saw it. A lot of tap dancing. Lots of waiting instead of just trying to shoot through a hole or to make a play. So there's a lot of tap dancing. I think he's trying to wait for his offensive line to pick up their blocks. You know, Ramandre in the past has said that he loved Le'Veon Bell, and he saw kind of Le'Veon Bell as that mentor, as the guy he would love to pattern his game after. You see a little bit of that. Le'Veon used to kind of wait. Remember? He'd wait, and then he'd shoot. And so when you look at what Ramondre is doing now, a lot of tap dancing, a lot of waiting behind the line of scrimmage. The issue is, for the first 2 weeks at least, not so much this past week, but for the first 2 weeks, there was really no blocking up front. So you're waiting, and then you're getting smoked 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. No bueno. So that's one problem. Another problem is yards after the contact. Stevenson averaged 2 yards after contact last year, which is a big number. You know what it is this year? I got this from Andrew Callahan. Shout out to Andrew, who does great work for the Herald. 0.2 yards. So Ramandre averaged 2 yards after contact last year. This year, it's 0.2 yards. Is he healthy? Remember, he was kind of put in bubble wrap during camp. Was that because they wanted to limit his touches in camp like we thought? Or was he not necessarily healthy? Was it not managing Stevenson? Was it an injury issue? Does he have something bothering him? Again, he's not on the report, but you can manipulate that report every once in a while. So is it a health concern? I don't know. But there's no denying he has not been the same guy. First couple of weeks, you can look at it. I did, and I said, hey, look, we can't really evaluate him until the offensive line starts blocking better. They started blocking better against that good Jets defensive line last weekend, and Ezekiel Elliott was far and away better than Stevenson. That can't be the case, man. You need him to get going. You need those yards after contact. He needs to stop tap dancing and go. And then, of course, in the receiving game, had the huge drop on Sunday. And I know Phil Perry of NBC Sports Boston, another guy that I respect very, very much in the reporting game and breakdown game. You know, he said that Stevenson went back and he changed his gloves after the drop. Look, I'm not going to, and I'm not saying Phil is trying to excuse it. That's just what Stevenson told Phil Perry. But if you look back at the replay, Ramondre dropped that football because he's looking downfield before he catches it. It's the old, saying of you can't go with the football unless you have the football. Might not be an old saying. You know what I mean? I just created the old saying. But you got to catch it first before you go with it. And Rhamondre has 10 catches for 77 yards so far this year, so just over 3 receptions a game. Most of those came in week 1 against Philadelphia. Not great. Not great. You would expect this guy to catch, a few more footballs than that so far. And maybe it's they're so screen reliant defenses already. We saw against the Jets, Quinnen Williams made a great play on a screen that, thankfully didn't end up in a turnover. We've seen that a couple times this year. Defenses look ready for these screens because the Patriots have been running so many damn screens because they lack explosiveness. They're trying desperately to get a chunk play. Defenses are more ready. I do think, though, offensive line, unless this is an injury situation, I do think the offensive line will keep improving as long as they're healthy. And along with that, Ramandre will get going, and he will be better this year, but it hasn't been good enough. All right, don't forget to like, rate, review, and subscribe. Give us that thumbs up on YouTube. Those thumbs up mean an awful lot. Subscriptions mean a lot as well. If you can do that, it takes very little time from you, means an awful lot to us. So thanks to everybody listening and watching. All right, let's talk about Mac Jones here and the Sauce Gardner situation, the incident, the cupgate. Look, obvious contact was made. It's tough to see if it was actually in the groin, if it was slightly above the groin. But for all intents and purposes, if you look at the video, it certainly looks like Mac gives a little back slap to the package. And I have a couple of thoughts here. Number one, I was reading today on X, like, oh, he's not going to get suspended. Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network. Yeah, no kidding. We were talking suspension for back slap in the groin. We're a little tap tappy, just a little tap tappy. We're talking about suspension. Will you stop? Mac Jones didn't take off his cleat and stab the dude in the neck. What are we doing here? Everybody relax, okay? He deserves a fine. He's going to get a fine. He deserves the fine. But one thing, and this is Mike Giardi tweeted this out earlier this week, and I've seen nobody other than Mike bring this up. There was some stuff going on between Sauce and Mac earlier in the game, and there was one play where Mac, I think he scrambled and he gets back up, and Sauce kind of like slaps him in the chest and says something to him. Now, we don't know what he was saying. We don't know if he was taunting it. We have no clue. But there was kind of a back and forth between Mac and Sauce Gardner before that play that everybody is focusing on. So that's one thing. What else was done throughout the game? I don't know. No clue. Maybe more, maybe nothing else. Maybe just that one play where Sauce kind of slaps him and says something to him, and then the cup check. Or maybe there were more things that happened in between the slapping of the chest and the slapping of the package. Maybe. Now, the question is intention. Max lost the benefit of the doubt. He really has. And Chris Long, former Patriot, tweeted out last night or posted on X last night that Mac's one of the top 5 dirtiest quarterbacks in the league. And, that he roots for Mac as a quarterback to do well. But guys know who Mac is in the NFL and that he takes some liberties. And Darius Slay commented on Mac as well on X. So what I would say is Mac's lost the benefit of the doubt. If you have a number of guys across the league, and that's just, the two that posted, and there's been more. I'm not going to sift through every single quote that's been, but there's been more, and there's been more incidents. And what's the common denominator? I love the saying of if you have a lot of roommates, you just keep going through roommates, roommate after roommate after roommate, and you seemingly can't get it right. Maybe it's not the roommate's fault. Who's the common denominator? If you're the one going through roommates like toilet paper, you are probably the problem. So all of these incidents are happening with guys that don't necessarily have track records of being dirty or taking liberties. The common denominator has been Mac. Now, I don't think he's done anything egregious or awful, but I do think he oversteps at times. I do think that he gets emotional, he gets fired up, he gets competitive, whatever the emotion is in that moment, and he reacts. And he's got to do better than that. He's got to show better maturity than that. Again, not the end of the world, not going crazy here, but you don't want your quarterback to have the crosshairs on him. And, maybe another team comes in to Gillette and they want to get even, quote unquote, with Mac, and they take a shot at your quarterback, and then he's down for the rest of the year. That's the biggest issue here, is that he has a reputation now. And if guys have a chance to take a shot, they might take a shot. So that's the biggest problem. Mac's definitely got some dirty in him. All right, one more thing before we bid you adieu. Actually, two more things. A mea culpa on Vidarian Lowe. I said this yesterday when I was breaking down the offensive line. I went by the eye test. And then we kind of look at other writing and other reports and other film work done by guys like Evan Lazar, Greg Bedard, Phil Perry. They dig into things, and we find out the real performances of the offensive and defensive lines, because some of that stuff that you're watching could be misleading. Go back to week 1. People were praising Adrian Clem and the O-line, and we went through the numbers that week with you. The O-line stunk for the most part in week 1. So the eye test told me that Vidarian Lowe did a pretty good job on Sunday. Eye test versus the All-22 in the film. And Evan Lazar wrote about this at Patriots.com this week. Lowe gave up 8 pressures against the Jets. 8. 2 quarterback hits, 6 hurries. So it was not a good day for Vidarian Lowe in pass protection. I also think it highlights how bad Calvin Anderson was, because you could watch Lowe on Sunday and go, not a bad job. It was very similar to week 1 against the Eagles when people watched, including me, and that first take were like, oh, they didn't do that bad, because it was so awful in the preseason. And it was the headline coming into this year was, man, that O-line's a train wreck. Mac's going to die. So the bar was set so low by Anderson that we looked at and said, oh, Lowe, not bad. Christian Barmore showed up on Sunday. Tons of pressure, handful of hurries, had 1 sack. They're going to need Christian Barmore to give them more of that, because he certainly has the talent and the potential. All right. So again, we're on Apple Pods. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. It's the Nick Cattle Show every single day, Monday through Friday. We try to stick it to about 30 minutes. Don't forget to like, rate, and review. Don't forget to give us that thumbs up. And continue watching, listening, supporting the program, hopefully, as we build out this community. We'll be back tomorrow with a whole lot more. For now, though, everybody have a great Tuesday. It is the Nick Cattle Show.